Just taking a quick look at this new Bentley. This is a bespoke Bentley Batur convertible. So yes, they already made the coupe, but yeah, I mean, obviously, if you're living this kind of a lifestyle, you want the convertible, don't you? So yeah, this is based on the Continental GT, and we'll kind of talk about the changes they've made here for the styling. In addition to all the little custom parts, everything that you can basically customize anything on this car. But yeah, fundamentally the styling is unique as well and much improved, I think, over the Continental GT. Number one is we get kind of these like chopped off style lights on the front and the rear. So on the Continental GT, it kind of comes up more like that, doesn't it? And this just gives it, just having it sliced off, just kind of gives it immediately, right off the bat, a more aggressive look, doesn't it? And then really the biggest change is on the rear three quarter around the wheels, the rear wheels here. You can see how much it like really flares out there. And it's not just because of like a crease, like on the standard, GT here. You can see it's kind of similar, but there's like this crease that runs down to kind of make your eye think it kind of flares out a little bit more. It has a little bit more of a muscular rear arch on it, more than it does. Actually, if you look at down the side here, you can see it's pretty flat. It's pretty flat. So, yeah, it's the crease on the side is more of a trick. Whereas, on this thing, it's like this is the real deal, right? I mean, you can see how curvaceous it is too, and how, yeah, it just really gives it a nice, powerful stance on it, doesn't it? And then, of course, there's the whole body has been like re-sculpted, with these very sensual curves. You can see that everywhere actually. So yeah, it's a very beautiful design. And again, as I mentioned, even on the rear lights here, it's the same story compared to the standard Continental. You can see that they kind of just sliced it off there. So yeah, it's really, actually, it looks a whole lot better. It's more beautiful, but at the same time, it's more aggressive. It really makes more of a statement on the road, doesn't it? And it's kind of topped off with this little built-in, it's almost like a little ducktail spoiler, isn't it? Just enough, you don't want to show off too much. This is a Bentley, Grand Tourer coupe, or a convertible, excuse me. But, you do want, to kind of hint at the performance this thing has. And it has a lot, right? This has the W12. So they actually say that this is one of the last Bentleys that will actually have the W12. It's been in production for nearly 20 years. And that's not, you might be thinking, well, I don't want to spend all this money on have an old engine. I mean, this is a fantastic engine and has been updated over the years. In fact, they say it makes 40% more power and uses 25% less fuel than it did when it first debuted. So, yeah, I mean, and then obviously, W12, there's no hybrid. It is a twin turbo, but, this is, if you're a purist and you want the pure Bentley experience, the thrust from an internal combustion engine, I mean, it doesn't really get any better than this, does it? And there's a lot of other little design details that this Batur convertible has that you're not going to find on your typical Bentley GT. Check this out. There's this line that runs from the cabin all the way down into the hood, right? So that's actually not just a crease, but there's actually an insert there. And yeah, you kind of need to see it on like a bright colored car like this as well to really appreciate it. But the only thing is, I would say, I'm not so sure the orange really suits this car. I don't know, maybe it does. I mean, maybe you really want to make a statement. But to me, I think the car itself, it speaks for itself, right? I don't think you really need like a Lamborghini style color on this thing, right? But it is nice, at least in these pictures, that kind of show off some of these design details a little bit more. There's also the spine. Yeah, you can see it there on the hood. It's actually on the hood, and then it continues on the rear a little bit. So, yeah, there it is on the hood, down the center, and then kind of cool, it just picks up a little bit right at the rear there. There's also this air bridge. That's what they call this piece here behind the front seats. Yeah, actually, we'll talk about this more when we jump to the interior. And just the last few little details on the front grille here before we do get to the inside is they actually fixed that pimple, that huge nasty pimple that's on the standard Continental. So yeah, I guess I don't know, they must have found a solution, a much better solution. here to that, because it does look like there's some sensors, but you can see that they're very hidden and they're kind of tucked behind the grill. And you can tell that those are different than the parking sensors here. And then also another little detail on this grill is you might think some of these orange highlights on the corners here, you might think maybe it's because the sun, the sun's setting. And no, it's not. There's actually these inserts. And of course on this car, they're orange. But, with this being a bespoke Bentley, you can do anything you want with this car, basically. Anything you want. Any color, any material. In fact, they say that the paint color options on this thing are basically infinite. That's what they say. They're literally infinite. So yeah, anything you want. Now, what is the downside here of basically creating your own Bentley, right? Well, they're only making 16 of these things. So, hey, good luck getting on that list. I mean, even if you got the money, good luck getting on that list, right? So while the outside does get a lot of changes, actually, a surprising number of changes over the base Continental GT, it's really on the inside that you get the little unique, bespoke, handcrafted differences, right? So the dashboard and everything, fundamentally everything in here is the same as the standard Bentley. But it's all the little details, isn't it? So yeah, no matter which, color stitching you want, piping, anything like that, you can customize it to exactly how you want it. And you get this, there's stuff, really special things like this. Like this is the surround for the start stop button, right? And they say that this is actually made by an expert goldsmith using the latest 3D printing technology. This is rose gold, solid rose gold that they 3D printed in England, of course. And on the seats here, they're showing off these cars. There's only going to be 16 of these, but these two cars that I'm showing here, these are just examples to kind of, get your imagination going. Any texture, basically, they say any texture you want, any pattern you want, they'll put it on there. So these ones here, they're showing off this, I think it's kind of inspired by waves or little ripples in the water, right? So that's kind of what the theme they've gone with these cars. And, it's not just on the seats here, but actually this, as I talked about, this air bridge, they have the same pattern, as you can see, kind of, extending beyond that. And, if you don't like it there, if you don't like the pattern there, you can always, hey, you can put it on the tonneau cover here, is what they say on this one. So, again, they kind of mix it up to show you some different examples. And this one, as you see, the air bridge is actually carbon fiber instead of just painted, right? So that looks great, in fact, doesn't it? So now they say, what is this air bridge? So the design is obviously inspired by roll hoops, but they don't actually say there's no, there's no rollover protection with this thing. It's just kind of the way it looks. But it does have a couple of functions, actually. So number one is, yeah, they say it just gives you some privacy, right? It gives you from the rear three-quarter view, especially you're driving this thing with the top down, and it's obviously a very expensive car. You don't want to just feel like you're sitting out there completely exposed, right? And it's kind of the same theme that Bentleys and Rolls Royces, they've always had, the traditional sedans, how they have that thick C-pillar, right? That kind of if you're being chauffeured in one of those things, it just, kind of hides your identity a little bit better. So they're kind of continuing with that theme, even on a convertible, right? I mean, so yeah, they do say a little bit of privacy. It creates this cocooned environment, doesn't it? And then the other thing that it does is actually there's some storage. Yeah, you can kind of see it. It kind of basically there's some storage area back in here. Maybe you can fit a few bags of luggage or something. And so they say that it does kind of cover that. It'll keep the sun off it, So this is obviously incredible. The fit and finish, the build quality, handcrafted, bespoke, you name it. I mean, this is kind of all the stuff I associate with Bentley. I think it is a little sad that, they've kind of gone so mainstream with so many of their models, right? And I mean, it's not just Bentley. I mean, even Ferrari. There's so many of those kind of lower end models that they just pump out, mass produce. But it is nice, I guess, that you can still get kind of the classic, traditional, hand-built experience here. Just, again, You got to be one of 16 people on the planet.